feeling all proud and important over just $300. I don't really need that small amount. Smirking, my son and his wife looked down on me, throwing mean words. I've been helping them out for 10 years since they claimed they were struggling with money. Even though I noticed they never got stable jobs, I kept quiet and tried to find ways to assist. And this is the gratitude I get. Why did I ever think of helping them? I believed that someday they would recognize my efforts and change their attitude. But that day never came. Isn't that a straightforward answer? I can't help but be mad at them, laughing it off like it's not a big deal or it's just a few cents after taking away 10 years of my time and savings. I've dedicated myself to my son and his wife without saying a word. But that stops today. I'm Mary, a homemaker in my 50s. Since my husband passed away, I've been living alone. We have a son. After finishing college, he moved out and now has a family with his wife. They live nearby, but honestly, we aren't on good terms. They're, let's say, a bit troublesome. After college, my son got a job at a company where he met his wife. She quit her job after getting married and became a full-time homemaker. But less than a year later, my son quit his job. Apparently, he had issues with his boss. Thinking he could easily find a new job, he threw everything away over one disagreement. But life didn't go as planned. Despite searching, he couldn't find a suitable job, and he eventually gave up on working altogether. His wife didn't seem interested in working either, and within a few months, they fell into financial hardship. In order to help them, I decided to give them a modest $300 every month. They were grateful and thanked me for the financial support. Every day, I hoped they would overcome their difficulties and become financially independent. However, after 10 years, my monthly $300 is no longer something they appreciate. It has turned into something they feel entitled to. For example, during a busy month with family events, I couldn't find time to meet my son and his wife on the usual day for their allowance. Late that night, they visited and knocked loudly on my door. "Mom, we need the allowance on time. Are you forgetting things because you're getting older?" My son teased. Exhausted and sleepy from busy days, I replied, "I'll give it to you another time. Please go home for now." His wife, visibly angry, retorted, "This is a monthly thing. You need to give it on time. Just because you're my husband's mother doesn't mean you can act this way." And she grabbed me by the collar. Shocked by the sudden confrontation, I ended up giving them the $300. If you had handed it over honestly from the start, this wouldn't have happened. We don't want to use force with you either. Listen to us and behave. If you ever lose your mind, we're the ones who will be looking after you. It wouldn't hurt to get in our good books now, right? Despite my anger, I refrained from retaliating, fearing that upsetting their pride might make them dependent again, as happened when my son quit his job. So I swallowed my feelings, smiled, apologized, and complied with their demands. In hindsight, I think I should have stood my ground. But my overwhelming desire for them to get back on track left me feeling powerless. The bad memories with them weren't limited to just that one day at work. I received a call from a concerned neighbor. "Mary, can we talk about your son and his wife?" "Oh dear, I'm sorry. I'll come right away." It turned out that when the neighbor returned from shopping, she noticed signs of a break-in. Reviewing the security footage, she was shocked to see the culprits were none other than my son and his wife. While her place was in disarray, nothing was stolen. Aware of my situation with them, she chose to inform me first. I left work early, contacted my son and his wife, and the three of us went to apologize. "I'm truly sorry." I kept apologizing, but my son and his wife showed no remorse. The neighbor seemed displeased, but we settled the matter when I agreed to compensate for the broken window. However, on the way back, they said something astonishing. "Why are older people so petty? We just wanted to borrow some stuff." I was so shocked that all I could manage was a feeble "what?" They continued, not even looking at me. "Yeah, we broke a window and made a mess, but we didn't steal anything. Isn't she overreacting?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My son simply nodded along. I should have definitely spoken my mind to them at that moment, without fear. My failure to do so revealed my weakness. Nonetheless, from that point onward, I noticed their increasingly aggressive behavior. Fortunately, they didn't cause any major issues aside from that incident with the neighbor. So I continued to provide for them, hoping they'd eventually become self-sufficient. Whenever they asked for something, I'd purchase it if I could afford it. My son wanted gadgets for socializing with friends, and his wife desired luxury brand items to avoid feeling inferior to others. Their demands escalated, and they started relying on me for everything. Even on my days off, they'd call me over to handle household chores. I worked tirelessly. They started asking for more than just money. Life requires money, and since they lacked both the means and the will to earn their own, I had no choice but to support them. No matter how exhausted I was, I committed to my job and completed any chores they asked for, even when I was drained. Consequently, I became worn out, with dark circles under my eyes, rough skin, and regular dizziness. My son and his wife laughed at me, saying, "You look like a monster." Furthermore, his wife pointed a finger at me, saying, "She's given up on being a woman." I didn't have the strength to respond to such hurtful words. Deep down, I sensed that I was approaching my breaking point, but I believed that if I stopped working and supporting them, both their lives and mine would unravel. So despite wanting to lean on someone and give up a long time ago, I pushed through and continued. To be honest, I had yearned to rely on someone's support for a while. While doing chores at my son's house one day, a minor incident triggered a fight due to my exhaustion and stress. Every little thing they did annoyed me. His wife made a snide comment, acting superior over just $300. My son, influenced by her words, said, "We don't need such a small amount," and handed back the $300 I had given them. On that day, they mocked and belittled me, saying, "If you're going to give us money, bring in more decent amount." Those words ignited a fire in me. Fine, I'll stop. Without considering the consequences or their feelings, the words just spilled out of my mouth. They looked confused when I started packing my things to leave, but then burst into laughter. "Come on, Mom, stop joking. If we left you, you'd be all alone. You wouldn't have the courage to live on your own without your precious son and his wife." "Mary, when did you become such a joker? That joke wasn't funny at all. You had me worried for a second there." They thought I was expressing frustration and not serious about ending the financial support. They continued to taunt me. "If you've got the courage, go ahead. But if you do, we'll cut ties with you. Think you can handle being all on your own? Come on, you'd want to take back those words in no time. There's no way your stubborn mom could do something like that, right?" They had no clue how cornered I felt, yet they continued to treat me poorly. I questioned the benefits of continuing to support them. By fulfilling their wishes and handling their household tasks, it seemed like I was being used and exploited. I felt like I was getting a raw deal, with my feelings being taken advantage of, treated like a servant, and this attitude persisting even when I was at my breaking point. Despite being family in name, their actions made it challenging to see them that way. "I'm serious, remember? You brought this on yourselves," I asserted, but they merely laughed it off, considering it a joke. "Go ahead and try, but you'll regret it soon. I can already see it," my son said. His words ignited a fire in my determination. I was determined to make them face the consequences. I would demonstrate my worth and make them realize the gravity of treating me so harshly. As I packed up to leave, my thoughts revolved around how I would bring them down. Initially, I followed through on my promise by cutting off all the support I had been providing to my son and his wife. No more money transfers, no financial assistance, and no more help around the house. Nothing. This was a departure from my usual behavior of living for the sake of my son and his wife. Now I could take a break without worrying about their needs. I could spend my money on myself and handle chores solely for my satisfaction. Experiencing this new way of living, I realized how wonderful it feels. Contrary to my son and his wife's belief that I couldn't break ties and live independently, I found myself living the independent life I had yearned for over a decade. Moreover, I decided to increase the pressure on them. I had taken on the lease for the apartment my son and his wife lived in when they faced eviction from their original place due to financial difficulties. Not only did I take on the lease, but I also paid the rent. With the decision to cut off all support, continuing to assist with the rent no longer made sense. Consequently, I contacted the real estate and opted to terminate the lease. The apartment manager, aware of our situation, was understanding. They were given a month's notice to vacate, or else they would be reported. That night, I texted my son and his wife, notifying them that if they don't move out within a month, it would become a legal matter. They read the message promptly, and within 5 minutes, my phone started ringing. "Mom, what the hell is this? Where are we supposed to live?" My son yelled as soon as I answered, with his wife in the background freaking out. "You may have forgotten, but I was the one covering the expenses for that apartment. I told you I was ending all assistance, didn't I? So naturally, I would cancel the lease too, right? We never agreed to that. You said you'd stop sending money, but we assumed you'd continue with everything else." I chuckled at his naive expectation, thinking, and replied, "Really?" All this while they continued to utter hurtful words to me. The notion that my son and his wife planned to keep receiving my support, excluding the allowance, left me bewildered. The incredibly naive mindset they displayed was mind-boggling. I allowed myself to be treated as they pleased for far too long. Even when expressing my discomfort, I always yielded to their demands, offering both money and time. All of this stemmed from a somewhat selfish desire of mine, hoping they would eventually become self-sufficient. I was mistaken, as they turned out to be the kind to exploit as much as they were pampered. In that case, it would have been wiser to assert my position and make them understand. I was the one providing an allowance, extending financial support beyond that, and handling their household chores. Regardless of how one looked at it, I held the upper hand, and they should have been grateful and respectful. Instead, they treated me with complete disrespect, as if I were merely a servant, a tool, an ATM, using me at their convenience. To add insult to injury, they even laughed at me when I was at my breaking point. Why did I exert so much effort for such an unreasonable couple? Despite their unfair treatment, I kept silent and let them have their way. Despite all my efforts, they never reciprocated my feelings. Only when I reached my breaking point did I realize how self-centered and disrespectful they truly were, and that they never really considered me as family. They might have seen me as a tool, but not as family, not even a little. Why didn't I grasp this sooner? Why did I persist until I felt overwhelmed? Why did I keep believing in them? In hindsight, my past actions seem pitiful. Despite believing that they would eventually become independent, I tirelessly supported them, only to realize it meant nothing. As I reflect on the past, anger towards them wells up within me. I need to express my grievances. I won't find satisfaction until they acknowledge their wrongs and apologize. With these feelings, I spoke up again. I'm going to stop the allowance but continue with the other support. What are you thinking? That's not going to happen. When my son tried to interject at my words, I cut him off. No buts. Understand this. Your lives have always relied on me. If I ever decided not to help you, if you upset me even once, your stability would crumble. Fortunately for you, I've been naive enough to hope that one day you'll be independent, that perhaps you won't need me to get by. Yes, Mom is kind. So you're not really going to abandon us, right? You just said those things in the heat of the moment, and now you can't take them back, so you're doing this, right? It's okay. We forgive you. Let's try to be a family again, okay? Don't be foolish. I've come to my senses. Despite all the support, you guys don't even want to be independent, do you? You just want to keep living comfortably on my dime, don't you? Attempting to backtrack, my son responded, "That's not it. We did want to be independent, but we can't. We don't even feel like looking for jobs. My wife feels the same. We did our best in our way, but it was just impossible." Almost laughing at his response, I couldn't believe they claimed to have tried their best. I had been observing my son and his wife for years, and neither seemed to be putting effort into finding jobs or living frugally. They were merely enjoying a comfortable life on my support every day. How does that translate to they tried their best in their way? Listen, Mom, we're really grateful for everything you've done. We couldn't put it into words, but you've always gone above and beyond for us. We always knew that we're able to live because of you and that we'd be lost without you. So why don't we try again? You need us too, right? Are you kidding me? I don't need you. On one hand, there's a guy who's still stuck in some trouble he caused 10 years ago, never settling into a steady job and just being a lieabout. And on the other hand, there's a woman acting like a stay-at-home wife, never admonishing or supporting her husband, just doing whatever she pleases. You think I need folks like you too? You couldn't be more wrong. Do you have any idea how much I've had to endure because of you too? Day in, day out, working to make money for you. And even when I'm not working, I'm doing chores for you. There's no way that isn't tough. I've come to realize that I'm not naive enough to want to be family with you too after all that. Don't say such harsh things, Mom. We need you. Without someone like you supporting us all the time, we'd. Despite my words, my son continued to assert his perspective, disregarding mine. Unsure of what to do next, I suddenly heard a shout like, "Give me that." And then his wife took over the call. "Mary, to be honest, I've been frustrated with my husband's selfish behavior too. Most men go out, work, and support their family, but he just wanders around, not working. Every day, I regret marrying him for my sake. I feel as wronged as you do. I'm a victim too. Please help me. Even if it's just me, I can't do this without you." Out of nowhere, his wife attempted to abandon him to save herself. Stunned by her audacity, she continued, "I'll do anything you need me to, whether it's housekeeping or anything else. Use me however you want. Please, Mary, don't abandon me." After those words, I could hear the couple arguing again over the phone, struggling to control the call. Annoyed by the noise, I frowned, and it seemed like the phone got knocked out of hand and disconnected. Days passed without a call back from them. Apparently, their relationship deteriorated significantly after that incident, leading to their decision to divorce and go separate ways. They blamed each other and even fought over money. The dispute continued until they finally got divorced. After the divorce, both attempted to contact me, but by then, I had already blocked both of their numbers, so I never heard from them again. My son began working tirelessly at a factory job, barely making ends meet. On the other hand, his ex-wife tearfully returned to her parents' house, confessing everything. Her parents reprimanded her severely. She came to apologize, escorted by her parents, but she cried so much that I couldn't understand what she was saying. Since then, I've been living for myself. For 10 long years, their presence bound me, and I never had a moment to cherish my own time. Living a life centered around myself felt incredibly refreshing and irresistible. Although I ended up alone without them, I found comfort in that. I have no idea what the future holds. There might be a time when I won't be able to live just for myself, but for now, I think I'm going to live for me.